Instead of trying to change the white man in your mind, make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, we are so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have the education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in an emotionless movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Peace and Black Power families. Brother I.J. Taimba of Harlem Liberation School, where we teach Black people to wake up, clean up, and stand up. This is a vainglorious day. It's a beautiful day. Well, here in New York City, in Harlem, it's actually rather dreary, overcast, and rainy. But the fact that we're alive to talk about it means that it's a beautiful day. I like to focus on the gratitude attitude rather than complaining, the complain train. Family, as you know, this is a day designated as Mother's Day. And I just want to take a few minutes to shout out my mom. And who knows, maybe give you all, if you're in a position to call in, to share. I'm going to share a link. If you want to come on in the studio and shout your mother out too, then you have that opportunity as well. Why do I love and cherish my mother? Well, that's a rather open-ended question. But I think there's a few key reasons. You know, I've been a teacher for many years. And so I've been privy to the students that come from parents, obviously. I've been privy to conversations with parents and their concerns and heard their complaints and their questions for how to maybe assist their kids better. As a community organizer, I'm kind of privy to, and also as a parent, I have a parental experience. And you know how we all have people in our family, our friendship circle, who, let's say, they pass, unfortunately, and let's say they weren't necessarily the best character people, but we loved them, so we find ourselves really clawing for good things to say about them. I'm really happy to say I don't have to do that. My mother really is genuine article. She is imperfect like myself and everyone else. But one thing I admire is that whatever she claims, she represents it to the fullest. So as a parent, she was very emphatic about teaching manners, teaching routine and order, certainly about discipline. If she said don't do it and I did it, there was a consequence. And I don't remember ever getting away with anything to my knowledge, except one time she said, you know, I'm tired. I'm going to let you go this time. But she was very big on modeling whatever it was she taught. So she had games. She was big on education and big on, I guess you might say, being able to articulate oneself clearly. So she had games to teach vocabulary that she played with me all the time, and things like that. If I asked her what something she got me a dictionary. She said, "Look it up." Teaching me agency to advocate for self, not to keep going to her and other people. She modeled everything. If she was big on reading, which she was, I saw her reading every night. So for that, I'm very grateful. And I think that has shaped some of my own views and practices as a parent. I also think that as a woman who subscribes to Christian religious beliefs and practices, when I was coming up in the church in my neighborhood, me and other youth would often reflect on the adults that said they were Christian and acted kind of shady. You know, like the time they threw out this sister who was homeless and clearly unkempt and could not take care of herself properly, and how some of the people in the church treated her roughly and with disrespect. And we were very much upset about that as young people. And there were certain adults, I remember being in that church, that represented that. They didn't just talk that, they actually walked it. They listened to us young people, even if they disagreed with what we were talking about. They were empathetic, they advocated for us, and they were kind and gentle people. Gentle people. With even people who were not, shall we say, people who were rough around the edges, right? And so I see my mother in that light. From her teachings to her involvement in several ministries in the church, to her taking upon herself, not waiting for some organization to come up with it, or some person says they're going to do something. She got her own bags with socks and gloves and stuff for homeless people, and going around herself distributing stuff to people who are displaced in our neighborhood. Involved with this group that deals with environmental issues and certain political issues. If I call her after 9, 10 a.m., forget it. I missed her. Why? Because she's gone. My mother gets out more than I do. She's more mobile than I am. She's in her 80s, and she's out. She's at the senior center. She's doing something, always constantly engaged and very active, and often not just for her own, not in a vain way, not just for herself. She's often involved in things that benefit other people, which I see as being in alignment with, her Christian beliefs. I think also the great compassion she had towards my father, I find very touching. My father was a beautiful man, very talented man, taught me a lot. Unfortunately, he made a few decisions towards the end of his life that compromised his life. And my mother had to be heartbroken, had to be distraught, but she never spoke ill about my father. She never tried to get in the way of me thinking highly of my father. And she always supports and supported my father. Even when they weren't together, she come to have a family event, she's showing up with my father. Never remarried, never got anybody else, always there. And I think that is something that's rare and something that I appreciate, kind of from a distance looking at it. Why didn't you divorce Dad? Oh, he was sick. I wanted him to have my medical benefits. Like, wow. Who does that, man? Who thinks like that? We get caught up in our emotions, and that's just, it's something to know there's people like that. And she's not the only one. It gives you hope because, if she's like that, there's probably thousands of people like that. There's other people that's like that. It gives you hope in a world that often seems gloomy and hopeless and full of despair. I am honored that she was part of an activist lineage. So I think of my activism, my stuff, but there's a history that predates me. You know, she grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. Her mother was a member of Ralph Abernathy's church. Ralph Abernathy is famously the best friend and the colleague, I guess, in a religious sense, of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, as such, she was involved with the Montgomery Improvement Association. And you all know about the historic Montgomery bus boycott. So, my grandmother was involved with much of that and passed that on to my mother. So, my mother went to a historically black college named Fisk University. She was involved with some of those SNCC protests. Now, that part I learned late. I learned very recently, right? So it's like I'm always learning something new. And it's interesting because my mother is an introvert. She's a classic introvert. Quiet, reserved, doesn't warm up to people very quick, takes her a while. Very observant, very reflective and introspective. And sometimes people like that can get overlooked because we're looking at the loud one, you know, that's always in the center of attention. And sometimes we confuse that. We confuse loud and being gregarious for having substance, right? And my mother's one of those people that reminds me of a post I put up recently about introverts. Don't sleep on people just because they're not always running their mouth, always in the middle of something, center of attention. Sometimes those people that's on the wall looking are very profound people with very deep insight, very reflective. Because they listen a lot, they're able to observe a lot. Because they introspect a lot, they're reflective and they have serious thoughts about things. So my mother will say in her modesty that she's not a leader and she doesn't want to do that type of leadership work. But when you sit back and think about what is leadership, what does leadership do, what does it accomplish? It inspires people, right? Good leadership. It has good direction. It's decisive. It models. It shows you what it looks like. It doesn't talk about it. It shows you, right? And it creates or promotes ideas, systems, practices, habits that if you embrace them will lead you to a better life, to be more successful, more empowered. So on all those things that really matter about leadership, she's a leader to me, certainly. And the fact that she's in her 80s, she's still going strong. You know, obviously you see signs of age. That's natural, but it's amazing. She really amazes me, if I can be honest. And she thinks the world of me. She thinks I'm this extrovert guy. And I said, no, Ma, I'm actually more like you than I am like that. You know, and that's the thing. Sometimes our parents don't appreciate how much we appreciate them because we're critical of our parents, right? Obviously, you know, my mother thinks that when I was a kid, I was going around and said, oh, you're the meanest one. And it wasn't that. I was a kid and my mother was disciplinarian. My father was the disciplinarian. My mother was. But to her credit, she did like leaders. She did what had to be done because I grew up in Harlem. Let's say my teens, it was the 1980s. And man, Harlem was ravaged with drugs and crime and disease and all types of stuff going on. Being from the South, where they left their front door unlocked all year round, my mother here now in Harlem in New York City, doing all this craziness going on, the whole crack epidemic, AIDS epidemic, gang violence, police brutality, was constantly worried that her only child and her son would get caught up in that milieu of vice, right? And so I would always come in when I got older, let's say from college breaks, and come in the house. And I'd be coming in late because now, you know, I'm a college student, you know, and on my own, so to speak. Might be coming at 1, 2, whatever in the morning. And my mother be sitting there. I'd be like, Mom, why are you sitting up? Oh, nothing. But she tells me now she was very worried. She'd be praying. And it's like, you just never, as sometimes we as children don't appreciate the perspectives of our parents, all the things they do to not just do the providing of food, clothing, and shelter, our education, trying to teach us what they believe are correct and wholesome values, trying to model that. And while they're doing all that, protecting us, right? And while they're doing all that, they have individual lives of their own. They have jobs and stuff they're trying to do. They got relationships with our other parent, our mother or father, our father in this case. And so that can't be very easy. It couldn't have been easy on my mother to be working in the hospital. She had these weird hours. She's cooking, she's cleaning, she's disciplining me. She whatever was going on with her and dad. On that level. So it's a lot, and I couldn't appreciate a lot of that when I was younger, but I do now, being an older man, more mature, having gone through stuff myself. And I just really want to take my hat off to my mother, and not just my mother, but to those of you who have similar stories of, the love you have for your mother, you recognizing their sacrifice, because, a lot of times our mothers had opportunities to do other things in their lives, to make career moves or different things like that, and they put their lives and those decisions on hold for us. And that is not easy to do. So definitely hats off to my mom for all the things I said. And I suppose to your parents, your mother as well. By the way, for a few minutes here, family, if you want to follow that link, you can join me in the studio and you can thank your mother in front of the world, so to speak. So while I talk, if you come in, I'll let you in the studio and give you a little bit of time to talk about what's special about your mom on this Mother's Day. Yes, I'm a nationalist. Yes, I believe in our own holidays. But family, there's no good reason on any given day why we can't celebrate our mothers. So, I don't subscribe to this idea of it's the white man's holiday. I look at it as it's just another day to bear witness to our mothers, and I don't see any problem with that. So if you want to follow the link that you should see on your screen, come on in on your phone or your laptop, your desktop computer, and shout out your own mother. I'll give you a few minutes for those who are so inclined. Today, my wife and I are going to church. We've been going to church. For me, it's special because I get to spend that time with my mom, and that means a lot to her, particularly in the church. It's not particularly my thing, so to speak, but it means a lot to my mom. So it means a lot for me to be there. It means a lot to me too. To share that type of time, that spiritual time with her. And today being Mother's Day, they have a special service. So I believe that her name will be called and some very nice things that my wife wrote may be said about her and other mothers who get their tribute. But I want my mother to know that for me, it's not about any gifts. It's about the gift of life that she gave me is the biggest gift. She doesn't have to give me anything. She gave me the most important thing. Life, she gave me culture, and she gave me education and love. And with that, I'm able to move and do the things I need to do for myself. So I'm eternally grateful to her, to you, Mom. And I know that you all feel the same about your mothers. So I'm going to get ready to close. We're getting ready actually to go to church where hopefully I will run into my mom. And for those of you whose mothers are physically gone, certainly we give you peace and blessings. We say prayers and meditations for you, because that's difficult. I lost my father in 2005, and not a day goes by I don't think about that man. So that you never quite get over those things. You just try to work through it. So certainly our blessings and prayers, meditations for you. And hopefully you will still think of them and still say their name, and keep their memory and their spirit alive. In African cosmology, we don't believe in this concept that you die and you're gone, we believe that you go into another realm and you continue in that realm, maybe the spiritual realm, or that your spirit comes back. That's how our ancestors looked at it. So just want to give a shout out to my mother in particular, all our moms in general, and just say God bless to all of you and to our mothers, man, for all the struggle. And let's also think about the sexism and the chauvinism they had to deal with on their jobs, maybe in their relationships. Think about the lack of leisure time. You know, I read studies on how most black women and women of color, like they may go to school, they may work, then they come home and they take care of the kids and they cleaning this and they cooking that. And it's like, when you compare the leisure time of the average man and woman in the house, the man has a lot more leisure time. So this means that over years and years, men have a greater opportunity to pursue their dreams or to do other things. And so just things to think about for men who may be watching or will watch this later, ways to be supportive of our sisters, particularly if they are also mothers, is to think about ways to give them more leisure time. So if it means that you maybe pick up on cooking, you pick up on cleaning, you pick up on solving some of the problems in the house to the degree that you can, that might be a good idea. Let's give her more leisure time, more time. These days they call it, I think they call it self-care, but time just to maybe do nothing or, hang with their friends or whatever they like to do. That's very important too for our health, physically and mentally and spiritually. So I want to thank you. I don't think anybody's taking me up on the offer to come in, and that's cool. I see Sister Mila Renee says, peace and blessings, Baba. Peace to you, my sister. And she's echoing the sentiment I said to say their names. That is very important. Some of you I know are subscribe to certain religions that look upon things like ancestral altars as being pagan. And I just want to tell you that pagan is a term that Roman authorities came up with to disrespect people who had alternative ways of worshiping and seeing the world, right? Because at this time, Rome ran the world, and therefore Christianity was the dominant religion. And this was a way of trying to say that people who don't subscribe to Christianity are doing devil worshiping or whatever way you want to look at it. But it is important that we venerate and honor our ancestors. And those, you don't have to do a whole altar. You can have pictures of key ancestors up. You can make sure that their name is on your lips. Man, listen, I don't care who's tired of the story. I'm always talking about my dad and something he taught me. Always. Sometimes my Uncle Wesley. Sometimes my grandmothers. That's very important. It keeps their spirit alive. And if you, like me, you don't have any physical remnant of a parent who passed, like me, I don't have anything physical of my dad. His basketball jerseys, sneakers, nothing. Remember this. You have their DNA in your body. They are part of you and you're part of them. So with that said, family, we're not going to go on and belabor it. Got to get ready to go, head out of here. Thank you for your time. If your mother is alive, hug her, love her, tell her how much you appreciate her. If she's not, do the same. You heard? If she's not, do the same. Do the same. Tell her you love her and what you appreciate about her. Very important, to let people and their spirits know how much they appreciate it, how much they impact your life. And to do this regardless of any critiques we have or any bad feelings of the past. Everybody has something good about them that they've contributed some way, somehow. So with that said, family, thank you. Happy Mother's Day to all of you watching who are mothers. And happy Mother's Day to those of you who may not have children per se biologically, but you are queen mothers in the sense that you impart wisdom and guidance and sustenance to young people. We appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you. Peace and Black Power, family. Enjoy the day.